The dining room of Ashford House had never known such silence. 23 guests sat frozen around the mahogany table, their forks suspended mid-air, their wine glasses trembling in white-knuckled grips. At the head of the table, framed by the golden light of 36 candles, stood a man who should not exist. He was impossibly tall, impossibly still, and impossibly beautiful in a way that made the eye ache to look away yet could not. His coat was black velvet that seemed to drink the candlelight rather than reflect it. His hair fell to his shoulders in waves the color of midnight, and his skin possessed the luminous pallor of fine porcelain. But it was his eyes that held the room captive, eyes of such deep amber they appeared to glow from within, ancient and knowing and utterly inhuman. "Forgive the intrusion," he said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries, though his tone remained courteous. "I am Lord Aldrich Thornwood. I have come to pay my respects to this household." Eleanor Ashford felt her mother's hand clamp down on her wrist beneath the table, nails digging into flesh through silk gloves. Her father had gone the color of old parchment. Her brother William had actually pushed his chair back, as if preparing to flee. Around the table, their guests, the cream of London society, sat paralyzed by a terror they could not name but recognized in their very bones. The creature before them was death given form. Every instinct screamed it. The way he stood without the slightest rise and fall of breath, the way the candlelight seemed to bend around him rather than illuminate him properly, the way the very air had grown cold the moment he appeared in the doorway, as if winter itself had followed him inside. Eleanor knew she should be terrified. She could feel the fear radiating from every person in the room, like heat from a fire. But as she looked at Lord Thornwood, at this impossible being who had materialized in her family's dining room, like a figure from a nightmare, she felt something else entirely. She felt curious, and then, before she could stop herself, before her mother's grip could tighten further, before her father could find his voice to stammer some response, Eleanor heard herself speak. "You are not here to pay respects," she said clearly, her voice cutting through the suffocating silence like a knife through silk. "You are here because you are lonely." The effect was instantaneous. Her mother gasped. Her father made a strangled sound. Lady Pemberton actually swooned, caught by her husband before she could slide from her chair. But Eleanor kept her gaze fixed on Lord Thornwood, watching as those amber eyes widened fractionally, the first genuine expression she had seen cross his marble features. For a long moment, he simply stared at her. The silence stretched so thin it might shatter. Then, slowly, something shifted in his face. Not quite a smile, but a softening, a crack in the perfect terrible mask. "You are correct, Miss Ashford," he said quietly, and his voice had changed. The ancient weight remained, but something else threaded through it now. Something almost vulnerable. "I'm very lonely indeed." Eleanor's father finally found his voice. "My lord, I must ask. That is, we are honored by your presence, but you wish to know why I have come?" Lord Thornwood finished. His gaze never left Eleanor's face. "I have watched this house for some weeks now. I have observed your family, and I confess, I have been drawn by something I have not felt in a very long time." He paused, and when he continued, His words were directed solely at Eleanor. "I have been drawn by the light in your windows, by the sound of laughter, by the warmth of life itself. You are a vampire," Eleanor said. It was not a question. The word fell like a stone into still water. Ripples of shock spread through the room. Someone whimpered. Someone else began to pray in a whisper. But Eleanor remained perfectly calm, her hands folded in her lap, her expression one of genuine interest rather than horror. "I am," Lord Thornwood acknowledged. "And you are the first person in 3 centuries to say that word to my face without screaming." "Screaming seems rather pointless," Eleanor replied. "If you meant us harm, we would already be harmed. You are clearly capable of entering homes uninvited, despite what the legends claim. You could have attacked us in our beds. Instead, you appeared at our dinner party and introduced yourself with impeccable manners." She tilted her head slightly. "That suggests you want something other than violence." Her mother had begun to weep silently. Her father looked as if he might be sick. But Lord Thornwood's expression had transformed entirely. He was looking at Eleanor as if she were the impossible thing, the creature that defied all natural law. "You are extraordinary," he said softly. "I am practical," Eleanor corrected. "And I am also curious. You say you have been watching our house. Why?" Lord Thornwood moved then, gliding rather than walking to the empty chair at Eleanor's right, the chair that should have been occupied by her late aunt, dead these 3 months past. He did not sit so much as arrange himself in the chair, every movement precise and deliberate, as if he had to remember how humans positioned their limbs. "I am the last of my kind," he said, his voice pitched for Eleanor alone, though in the deathly quiet of the room everyone could hear. "The last vampire king of a court that has crumbled into dust. For 200 years I have lived in isolation, feeding on deer in the forests, avoiding all human contact. I convinced myself it was penance for the monster I once was." He looked down at his pale hands, resting on the table. "But 3 months ago, I passed your house on a winter evening. The windows were bright with candlelight. I heard singing, your voice, I think, and I realized that what I had called penance was simply cowardice. I was not avoiding humans to protect them. I was avoiding them because I could not bear to be reminded of what I had lost." Eleanor felt something shift in her chest. Around the table, the guests were beginning to recover from their initial shock, though none dared move. Her father had found his voice again, though it shook. "My lord, surely you understand that your presence here is most irregular. My daughter is unwed, and you fear I mean to compromise her," Lord Thornwood said, his tone gentle but firm. "I do not. I mean to court her, if she will permit it, properly. With chaperones and calling hours, and all the tedious rituals your society demands." He turned back to Eleanor. "I have spent 2 centuries alone, Miss Ashford. I have forgotten what it means to hope. But when you spoke just now, when you looked at me and saw loneliness rather than monstrosity, I remembered." Eleanor's heart was beating very fast now, though not from fear. She studied the vampire king before her, this impossible being who had materialized in her ordinary life like a figure from a fairy tale. She thought of her own loneliness, the quiet desperation of being the eldest daughter in a respectable but impoverished family. destined for a practical marriage to some suitable gentleman who would never truly see her. She thought of the books she read late at night, stories of adventure and passion and lives larger than the small circumscribed existence society had planned for her. "You may call upon me," she said clearly, "tomorrow afternoon, 4 o'clock. My mother will serve as chaperone." Her mother made a sound like a wounded animal. Her father appeared to be choking. But Eleanor kept her gaze steady on Lord Thornwood and watched as something like wonder crossed his ageless face. "I will be there," he promised. He rose from the chair with that same eerie grace, bowed deeply to Eleanor, and then to her parents. "Forgive the disruption to your evening. I will take my leave." He paused at the doorway, looking back one final time. "Thank you, Miss Ashford, for your courage and your kindness." Then he was gone, vanished into the night as silently as he had come. The room erupted. Lady Pemberton had recovered enough to declare she would never set foot in Ashford House again. Lord Pemberton was demanding they send for the vicar immediately. William was shouting about stakes and holy water. Her mother was sobbing into her napkin while her father paced the length of the table, running his hands through his thinning hair. But Eleanor sat quietly, her hands still folded in her lap, and felt the first stirrings of something she had not experienced in years. She felt alive. The following afternoon, Eleanor sat in the drawing room wearing her best day dress, a modest affair of dove-grey silk that had been turned and re-trimmed 3 times. Her mother occupied the chair nearest the door, clutching her smelling salts as if they were a weapon. Her father had retreated to his study, claiming he could not bear to witness this madness. William had gone to his club, muttering darkly about unnatural creatures and family honor. At precisely 4 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Their butler, Henderson, who had been with the family for 30 years and had weathered every social catastrophe with unflappable dignity, opened the door to admit Lord Thornwood. In the afternoon light streaming through the windows, the vampire looked even more otherworldly. His skin seemed almost translucent, and Eleanor could see the faint tracery of veins beneath the surface, though they carried no blood, no pulse of life. "Miss Ashford," Lord Thornwood said, bowing. "Mrs. Ashford, thank you for receiving me." Eleanor's mother managed a strangled greeting. Eleanor rose and gestured to the settee opposite her chair. "Please, sit a Henderson tea if you would." "I'm afraid I cannot partake," Lord Thornwood said quietly, as he arranged himself on the settee. "But please, do not let that prevent you." Henderson departed, moving with the careful dignity of a man determined to maintain normalcy in the face of the impossible. Eleanor's mother had gone very pale, her knuckles white around her smelling salts. "You must forgive my family, Delm," Eleanor said. "We are not accustomed to entertaining vampire kings." "I imagine not," Lord Thornwood replied. The corner of his mouth quirked upward. Not quite a smile, but close. "In truth, I am not accustomed to being entertained. The last time I sat in a drawing room making polite conversation, it was 1642, and the lady of the house spent the entire visit trying to determine if I cast a reflection in her silver tea service." "And do you?" Eleanor asked. "I do, actually. That particular legend is false, as are most of them." He leaned back slightly, his posture relaxing. "I can enter homes without invitation. Crosses and holy water do not harm me. Garlic is merely unpleasant, as it is for most people. Sunlight weakens me considerably, but it does not reduce me to ash. What about stakes through the heart? Her mother gasped. Lord Thornwood's eyes crinkled with what might have been amusement. That would kill me, yes. But then, it would kill anyone. It is hardly specific to vampires. Eleanor found herself smiling. You are not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone more monstrous, I suppose. The stories paint your kind as savage beasts, driven by bloodlust and cruelty. Lord Thornwood's expression sobered. I was that once. When I was first transformed, I was a monster in truth. I killed without thought, fed without mercy. I believed myself above humanity, a superior predator. He looked down at his hands. It took the death of someone I loved, someone I killed in my arrogance, to wake me to what I had become. I have spent the last 2 centuries trying to atone for those early years, trying to become something other than the beast I was. And have you succeeded? Eleanor asked softly. I feed only on animals now. I have not taken human life in 200 years. I have used my wealth, accumulated over centuries, to fund hospitals and orphanages. I have tried to do good in the world, though I remain forever apart from it. He met her gaze. But I cannot say if that makes me redeemed or merely less damned. Henderson returned with the tea service. Eleanor poured for herself and her mother, who accepted her cup with trembling hands but did not drink. The silence stretched, but it was not uncomfortable. Eleanor found herself studying Lord Thornwood with open curiosity, noting the way he held himself with perfect stillness, the way his eyes tracked every movement in the room with predatory awareness even as his manner remained gentle. Why me? She asked finally. You said you watched our house for weeks, but London is full of houses with bright windows and laughter. Why did you choose to reveal yourself to our family? Lord Thornwood was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight of emotion that made Eleanor's breath catch. Because I heard you singing one evening. You were at the pianoforte, and the window was open despite the cold. You were singing a ballad about a knight who loved a lady from afar, knowing he could never have her. And your voice. He paused, searching for words. Your voice held such longing, such understanding of what it means to want something you cannot have. I knew then that you understood loneliness as I do, that perhaps you, alone among all the people in this vast city, might understand what I am. Eleanor felt heat rise to her cheeks. She had indeed been singing that evening, believing herself alone and unobserved. She had poured her heart into that song, all her secret longings for a life beyond the narrow confines society had drawn for her. I do understand, she said quietly. I am 28 years old, my lord, far past the age when most women marry. My family has little fortune, and I have no great beauty to recommend me. I am destined to become a spinster aunt, caring for my parents in their old age, and then my brother's children after they are gone. It is not a terrible fate, but it is a small one. And sometimes, late at night, I dream of something more. You are beautiful, Lord Thornwood said, and there was such conviction in his voice that Eleanor's lungs stalled. Perhaps not in the way society measures such things, but there is a light in you, Miss Ashford. An intelligence and courage and kindness that shines brighter than any mere physical beauty. When you looked at me last night and saw my loneliness rather than my monstrosity, you gave me something I had not felt in centuries. You gave me hope. Eleanor's mother made a small sound, but Eleanor barely heard it. She was lost in Lord Thornwood's amber eyes, in the intensity of his gaze, in the impossible truth of this moment. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. "Everything," he said simply. "And nothing. I want to know you, to court you properly if you will allow it, to see if this connection I feel might grow into something real. I have no illusions about what I am, Miss Ashford. I am a creature of darkness, cursed to walk the earth long after everyone I have ever loved has turned to dust. I can offer you no normal life, but I can offer you honesty and devotion and a love that will not fade with time, because time has no meaning for me." "You speak of love," Eleanor said, her heart pounding. "But we have only just met." "I speak of the possibility of love," Lord Thornwood corrected gently. "I do not presume to claim your heart after one conversation, but I feel the seed of it, Miss Ashford. I feel something I have not felt since I was human. And I believe, I hope, that you might feel it too." Eleanor looked at her mother, who sat frozen in her chair, her face a mask of horror and helplessness. She thought of her father in his study, her brother at his club, all the proper society that would condemn her for even entertaining this creature's presence. She thought of the safe, small life that awaited her if she turned Lord Thornwood away. And then she thought of his words, of loneliness and hope, and the possibility of something extraordinary. "You may call again," she said, "and tomorrow, if you wish." Lord Thornwood's face transformed. It was not quite a smile. His features seemed almost to have forgotten how, but it was joy nonetheless, pure and radiant and heartbreakingly human. "I will be here," he promised. Over the following weeks, Lord Thornwood became a fixture at Ashford House. He called every afternoon at 4 o'clock, always impeccably dressed, always perfectly mannered. Eleanor's mother maintained her vigil as chaperone, though she had progressed from terrified silence to resigned disapproval. Her father avoided the drawing room entirely. William had taken to spending his evenings at his club, loudly proclaiming his sister's madness to anyone who would listen. But Eleanor found she did not care. For the first time in her life, she was truly happy. Lord Thornwood was unlike anyone she had ever known. He spoke 7 languages fluently, having learned them across the centuries. He had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the birth of nations, the sweep of history itself. He could discuss philosophy and literature with equal ease, and he listened to Eleanor's opinions with genuine interest, never dismissing her thoughts as frivolous or unimportant. More than that, he made her laugh. Despite his ancient nature, despite the weight of centuries he carried, Lord Thornwood possessed a dry wit that caught Eleanor by surprise. He told her stories of the absurdities he had witnessed, the fashions that had come and gone, the social customs that seemed ridiculous in retrospect, the pompous nobility he had encountered who took themselves far too seriously. In 1743, he told her one afternoon, I attended a ball in Paris where the hostess insisted every guest wear a wig at least 3 feet tall. By the end of the evening, the ballroom looked like a forest of powdered trees, and no one could fit through the doorways without turning sideways. I watched a duke get his wig caught in a chandelier. It took 4 footmen to free him. Eleanor laughed so hard she had to set down her teacup. You are inventing that. I swear upon my honor, I am not. The French aristocracy before the Revolution was magnificently absurd. His expression sobered slightly, though what came after was far less amusing. You were there, Eleanor said quietly. During the Terror. I was. I saved who I could, smuggled families out of Paris, used my abilities to move unseen through the chaos. But I could not save everyone. I watched good people die for the crime of being born into the wrong class. He looked away. It was one of many times I wished I was still human, so that I might have died fighting for something that mattered. Eleanor reached across the space between them and daringly placed her hand over his. His skin was cool to the touch, but not unpleasantly so. He looked down at their joined hands with wonder, as if she had given him something precious beyond measure. You matter, she said firmly. You have saved lives. You have done good in the world. That counts for something. It counts for everything, he said softly, when you say it. It was during their 4th week of courtship that Lord Thornwood invited Eleanor to walk with him in the gardens behind Ashford House. Her mother insisted on accompanying them, trailing 10 paces behind with Henderson as additional chaperone. The evening was cool, the sky painted in shades of violet and gold as the sun set. I must tell you something, Lord Thornwood said, as they walked along the gravel path. Something you deserve to know before this courtship progresses any further. Eleanor felt her heart skip. You sound serious. I am. He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. In the fading light, his features seemed almost to glow, ethereal and otherworldly. I have told you that I feed only on animals now, that I have not taken human life in 2 centuries. But I have not told you what that means, practically speaking. I assumed you hunted in the forests. Eleanor said, I do. But the hunger is always there, Miss Ashford. Always. When I am near you, I can hear your heartbeat. I can smell your blood, warm and vital and alive. Every instinct I possess urges me to feed. He held up a hand as she started to speak. I will not. I have mastered those instincts through centuries of discipline. But I need you to understand what you are courting. I am not safe, not truly. I am a predator who has learned to suppress his nature. But the nature remains. Eleanor considered this carefully. Behind them, her mother had stopped walking, clearly straining to hear their conversation. Eleanor stepped closer to Lord Thornwood, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. Do you want to hurt me? She asked. Never, he said with fierce conviction. I would rather walk into the sun than cause you harm. Then I trust you, Eleanor said simply. You have had weeks to hurt me, if that was your intention. You have been nothing but gentle and honourable. I do not fear you, my lord. I fear only that you might decide I am not worth the risk. Lord Thornwood made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Not worth the risk. Eleanor, you are worth everything. You are the first person in 2 centuries to see me as something other than a monster. You are brilliant and brave and impossibly kind. You have given me back something I thought I had lost forever. What? Eleanor whispered. My humanity, he said. Or the memory of it, at least. When I am with you, I remember what it was to be human. To hope and dream and feel joy. You have awakened something in me that I thought had died with my mortal life. Eleanor felt tears prick at her eyes. You have awakened something in me as well. I was so lonely before you came, so resigned to a small, quiet life. But you make me feel alive. You make me feel seen. You make me believe that extraordinary things are possible. They are possible, Lord Thornwood said. He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently brushed a tear from her cheek with his cool fingers. Anything is possible, if you are brave enough to reach for it. Then I am reaching, Eleanor said. I am reaching for you. The moment hung between them, crystalline and perfect. Then Lord Thornwood stepped back, his expression both tender and pained. There is more you must know, he said, before you commit yourself to this path. If we are to be together, truly together, you must understand what that means. Eleanor felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. Tell me. Lord Thornwood glanced back at her mother and Henderson, who were attempting to appear as if they were not listening to every word. He offered Eleanor his arm. Walk it with me a bit further. This conversation requires privacy. They moved deeper into the garden, to where the roses grew wild and untamed. Here, in the gathering darkness, they were nearly invisible from the house. Lord Thornwood released Eleanor's arm and turned to face her, his expression grave. I am immortal, he said. I do not age. I do not sicken. I will exist unchanged for centuries to come. But you... He paused, pain flickering across his features. You are human, you will age, you will grow old and eventually die. If we marry, I will have perhaps 50 years with you, if we are fortunate. And then I will spend the rest of eternity alone, mourning you. Eleanor had not considered this. The full weight of it struck her now, the terrible mathematics of loving an immortal being. Is there no other way? She asked quietly. Lord Thornwood was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his words came as if through cloth. There is one way, but I have sworn never to do it again. Understanding dawned. You could transform me. I could, he acknowledged. The process is difficult, painful, and there is no guarantee of success. Some humans do not survive the transformation. Those who do are forever changed. You would lose your humanity, Eleanor. You would become what I am, a creature of darkness, sustained by blood, cut off from the daylight world. You would watch everyone you love age and die while you remained unchanged. You would outlive empires. You would see centuries pass like days. It is not a gift. It is a curse. But we would be together, Eleanor said. We would, for eternity. He reached out and took both her hands in his. But I cannot ask that of you. I will not. The choice must be entirely yours, made with full knowledge of what you would be giving up. And you need not decide now. We have time. I would be honored to spend whatever years you have as your husband, even knowing that I will lose you in the end. Eleanor looked down at their joined hands, his pale and cool, hers warm and alive. She thought of her life as it was, the small and circumscribed existence that awaited her. She thought of growing old in this house, watching her youth fade, her dreams shrivel. And then she thought of eternity with this man who had awakened her heart, who saw her truly, who loved her with a devotion that transcended time itself. I do not need time, she said clearly. I know my answer. Lord Thornwood's hands tightened on hers. "Eleanor, I choose you," she said. "I choose eternity. I choose to become what you are, so that we might face the centuries together. I know what I am giving up. I know the cost, but I also know that a lifetime without you would be no life at all. I have been half asleep for 28 years, waiting for something to wake me. You have woken me. I will not go back to sleep." "You are certain?" His voice shook. "Once it is done, there is no undoing it." "I am certain," Eleanor said. "I have never been more certain of anything in my life." Lord Thornwood pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her with infinite care, as if she were made of spun glass. Eleanor felt his cool cheek against her hair, felt the absence of breath and heartbeat that should have been terrifying but somehow was not. "Then I will give you eternity," he whispered, "and I will spend every moment of it trying to be worthy of your choice." The wedding took place 6 weeks later in the small chapel near Ashford House. It was a quiet affair. Eleanor's family attended, though her mother wept throughout and her brother refused to speak to her. A handful of close friends came more out of morbid curiosity than genuine support. The vicar had required considerable persuasion and an even more considerable donation to the church before he would agree to perform the ceremony. But Eleanor barely noticed the disapproval, the whispers, the scandalized looks. She stood at the altar in her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit her smaller frame, and looked into Lord Thornwood's amber eyes, and felt only joy. "I, Aldrich, take thee, Eleanor," he said, his voice steady and sure, "to be my wedded wife, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part." But they both knew that death would not part them. Death had already claimed him, and soon it would claim her mortality as well, transforming her into something new, something eternal. "I, Eleanor, take thee, Aldrich," she replied, her voice ringing clear in the small chapel. "To be my wedded husband, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part." The vicar pronounced them man and wife with visible relief, clearly eager to be done with this unholy union. But when Lord Thornwood, when Aldrich, lifted Eleanor's veil and kissed her gently, reverently, as if she were the most precious thing in all the world, Eleanor felt the rightness of it settle into her bones. This was where she belonged. This was what she had been waiting for. They spent their wedding night at Thornwood Manor, Aldrich's estate in the countryside. It was a Gothic pile of stone and shadows, beautiful in its darkness. Aldrich carried her over the threshold, and Eleanor laughed at the absurdity of this ancient vampire observing such a human tradition. "Are you ready?" he asked as he set her down in the master bedroom. The room was lit by dozens of candles, their light dancing across dark wood and deep burgundy fabrics. "We can wait, if you wish. There is no rush." "I am ready," Eleanor said. She was nervous, yes, but also eager. Eager to begin this new life. Eager to shed her mortality like an old coat that no longer fit. Aldrich guided her to sit on the edge of the bed. He knelt before her, taking her hands in his. "The transformation will be painful," he warned. My venom will burn through your veins like fire. You will feel as if you are dying, because in truth, you will be. Your human life will end, and your vampire life will begin. It will take 3 days. During that time, I will not leave your side. I will be here, holding you, speaking to you, anchoring you to this world. Do you understand? I understand, Eleanor said. I am not afraid. You are braver than I ever was, Aldrich said softly. He raised her wrist to his lips, pressing a kiss to the delicate skin where her pulse beat strong and steady. I love you, Eleanor Thornwood. I will love you for all eternity. And I love you, Eleanor whispered, now and always. Aldrich's eyes flashed amber in the candlelight. His lips parted, revealing fangs that gleamed like pearls. Eleanor felt a moment of primal fear, the prey recognizing the predator. But she pushed it down. This was her choice, her future. It will hurt, Aldrich said once more. I know, Eleanor said. Do it. He bit down. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. Eleanor gasped, her body arching, but Aldrich held her steady. His venom flooded her veins, burning like liquid fire, rewriting her very essence. She could feel her heart racing, trying to pump the venom through her system, trying to fight the transformation even as it was already too late. Aldrich pulled back, his lips stained with her blood. He gathered her into his arms as the pain intensified, as her body began to convulse. I have you, he murmured against her hair. I have you, my love. You are not alone. I am here. I will always be here. Eleanor tried to speak, but the pain stole her words. She clung to Aldrich, to the sound of his voice, to the cool solidity of his presence. The world narrowed to fire and agony and the steady litany of his love. 3 days passed in a blur of pain and darkness. But true to his word, Aldrich never left her side. He held her through the worst of it, speaking to her constantly, telling her stories of the future they would share, the places they would see, the centuries they would have together. And then, on the morning of the 4th day, the pain stopped. Eleanor opened her eyes. The world had changed. Everything was sharper, clearer, more vivid. She could see individual dust motes dancing in the air. She could hear the servants moving in the rooms below, could hear their heartbeats, could smell their blood. The hunger rose in her immediate and overwhelming. But beneath it was something else. Control. Aldrich's centuries of discipline, passed to her through his venom, gave her the strength to master the hunger rather than be mastered by it. Eleanor. Aldrich's voice was tentative, hopeful. He sat beside the bed, his face drawn with exhaustion and worry. Can you hear me? I can hear everything, Eleanor said. And her voice was different now, richer, more resonant. She sat up slowly, marveling at the strength in her limbs, the absence of fatigue or weakness. I can hear the servants downstairs. I can hear mice in the walls. I can hear your voice as if it were music. Aldrich's face transformed with joy. The transformation was successful. You are vampire now. You are eternal. Eleanor looked down at her hands. They were paler now, luminous in the candlelight. When she touched her tongue to her teeth, she felt the sharp points of fangs. She should have been horrified. Instead, she felt powerful, free. "How do you feel?" Aldrich asked. Eleanor considered the question. She felt the hunger, yes, gnawing at her insides. But she also felt strong. Alive in a way she had never been as a human. And when she looked at Aldrich, when she saw the love and relief and wonder in his amber eyes, she felt complete. "I feel like myself," she said. "Only more so. As if I have finally become who I was always meant to be." Aldrich pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "I was so afraid," he confessed. "So afraid that I would lose you, that the transformation would fail, or that you would wake and regret your choice." "Never," Eleanor said fiercely. She pulled back to look at him, cupping his face in her hands. "You gave me eternity. You gave me freedom. You gave me a love that will never fade. How could I regret that?" "Then we begin," Aldrich said. "We begin our life together, our eternal life." 20 years had passed since that night. 20 years that felt like both an eternity and an instant. Eleanor stood in the garden of Thornwood Manor, watching the sun set over the distant hills. She still could not walk in full daylight. That weakness remained. But the twilight hours were hers, and she had learned to love them. Behind her, she heard Aldrich's footsteps on the gravel path. After 2 decades together, she knew his walk, his presence, the particular quality of silence that surrounded him. She turned as he approached, and her heart, which no longer beat but somehow still felt, swelled with love. He looked exactly as he had on their wedding night. Exactly as he had looked when he first appeared in her family's dining room all those years ago. And she knew that when she looked in the mirror, she saw the same unchanging face she had worn at 28. They were frozen in time, she and her vampire king. But they were not frozen in feeling. "I have been thinking," Aldrich had said as he joined her, slipping his arm around her waist, "about that first night, when I appeared at your family's dinner party and terrified everyone present," Eleanor said with a smile. "Everyone except you," Aldrich corrected. "You looked at me and saw loneliness. You spoke the truth that no one else dared to speak. You changed everything with a single sentence." Eleanor leaned into his embrace, resting her head against his shoulder. "I simply said what I observed. You were lonely, as was I. We are lonely no longer," Aldrich said softly. He turned her to face him, his amber eyes glowing in the fading light. "I have loved you for 20 years, Eleanor. I will love you for 20,000 more. And still it will not be enough time to show you all that you mean to me." "Then it is fortunate," Eleanor said, rising on her toes to kiss him, "that we have eternity to try." The sun sank below the horizon, and the stars began to emerge, one by one, in the darkening sky. In the distance, an owl called. The world continued its ancient rhythms, seasons turning, years passing, empires rising and falling. But here, in this garden, in this moment, 2 immortal beings stood wrapped in each other's arms, and time had no meaning at all. They had found what so few ever find, a love that transcended death itself, a love that would endure through all the centuries to come. Eleanor had given up her mortality, her place in human society. the simple pleasures of daylight and aging alongside her family. But she had gained something far more precious. She had gained forever. And she had gained it with the one person who truly saw her, truly loved her, truly understood the depths of her heart. As the first stars appeared overhead, Aldrich took her hand and led her back toward the manor. Their home, their sanctuary, the place where they would spend countless nights together, talking and laughing and loving, building a life that would span centuries. Eleanor squeezed his hand, and he squeezed back. A simple gesture, but one that spoke volumes. They were together. They were eternal. And they were, at long last, no longer lonely.